Hey everyone, we're going to be diving into some pretty big news today, and that, of course, is talking about crypto in Capitol Hill. And a lot of what we talked about earlier in the week is getting ready to play out, I think, in a very interesting way. You guys don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. All right, a couple of things just to give you guys a heads up. I'm traveling. I'm out at a conference, actually doing some evangelistic work for the Web3 community, and that is trying to get people in different industries to understand what's happening in crypto. So that's why I'm not in the studio, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to stop us right now. We have some big news, and I think it's going to be a very telling process of how crypto is going to be approved in the United States. And I think this might be one of the first steps. I want to go to this first clip, so listen in.
If this resolution is passed, the SEC would be prohibited from issuing any guidance in the future that is substantially similar to this one. Chairman McHenry and I have worked well together to find common ground on crypto issues like stablecoins. However, instead of finding ways to work together, Republicans are recklessly pushing this harmful partisan resolution.
All right, so that, of course, Maxine Waters, she is not necessarily in yet, but I have an idea that she eventually is going to turn, and mainly because she has been working with Patrick McHenry, on the stablecoin bill. The likelihood is we'll probably see a lot of alliances that are going to start to move around DC and maybe go in a direction that I think a lot of people have been praying for. So overall, I think it's pretty good news. It's not necessarily breaking in the sense that this is going to change crypto today, but these are the steps I think that are going to be going forward. Let's go into this next clip. This gets in a little bit of why this bill must pass. This is talking about SAB 121.
Number one, the SEC is not a bank regulator. Number two, the SEC got caught trying to circumvent the APA and the due diligence requirements that come with it.
It would reshape the business of custody in this country. This is not just about crypto. A custodian is someone who holds your assets for you, whether it's shares of stock or acres of forest land, a rental house, or 10 Bitcoin. Holding reserves against the assets in custody is not standard financial services practice. This staff accounting bulletin is misguided. It requires that money be set aside for that category of assets, of digital assets in custody.
All other assets, if you want to make a deposit at a bank, they're glad to hold custody of the assets. But somehow these assets qualify for special treatment.
The SEC has been unwilling to have any conversation about making changes. That leaves us with no choice. Congress needs to act through the Congressional Review Act to rescind SAB 121.
All right, so if you haven't been following this, this was a little bit of, well, not a little bit, this was a big overreach by the SEC. They simply said, hey, we want to be able to allow banks to hold crypto. And if we do, you put a Bitcoin in, it means that the bank has to carry an equal equivalent of an asset in US dollars to that crypto account. So that would pretty much eliminate the banking system from ever being a custody. I mean, why would they do that? So the fact that we see this overwhelming support of basically squashing what the SEC was trying to do, which in reality was just an overreach, this is good news because it does open up the opportunity for banks to get into it, but it also opens up the opportunity for other financial institutions to continue to move in the direction of crypto as a whole. Further into this, of course, they always have to kind of go back to the FTX argument. It's the one that is what they camp on. Listen to what they had to say.
That led to the collapse of major crypto companies like FTX.
The failure of Silicon Valley, Signature Bank, First Republic Bank, and others have shown us that nervous depositors can cause a run on bank assets when crypto assets become unstable.
Silicon Valley Bank's failure had to do with deposit concentration risk and interest rate mismanagement. It had nothing to do with the fact that many of its customers were technology firms or worked in the blockchain space. Had nothing to do with that. That is a red herring.
Mr. Speaker, I'd say to my colleagues, if they want to fix the Sam Bankman-Fried FTX fraud and the ability to do that again, you need to pass the bill that we've produced out of committee that regulates crypto and provides regulatory agencies powers.
All right, so we all know this has been happening. If you haven't watched some of our videos on this, we have a whole playlist for you guys to kind of catch up on this. If you're brand new into crypto, I would ask you guys to, of course, smash the like button right now, because hopefully this channel is going to be delivering to you guys some of the most innovative regulation, but I think also a huge step forward because the fact that we are getting so much conversation in Congress right now. So a lot still going in the right direction. I want to jump over and share my screen for you guys. This kind of goes into the whole scenario around FTX. And part of this was just FTX still being looked at as, and they were a bad guy, don't get me wrong, but guess what? FTX now says almost all customers will get full refunds. And I think also this maybe with what McHenry was saying is it does give them even more ammunition to actually get some regulation in place. I want to go to this next clip. This gets into a little bit more around, of course, Mr. Brad Sherman and what he says. So a little bit of a trigger warning, but listen in.
I now yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman.
Because crypto's whole purpose is to facilitate evading American law and to help criminals.
Money laundering, tax avoidance,
Criminals.
cyber criminal, ransomware payments,
The sanctions evaders, the drug dealers, the human traffickers.
and terrorist finance.
Oh, and by the way, particularly useful to Sam Bankman-Fried, is it more useful to buy something? You can go to Rayburn and buy a sandwich for $1. Well, okay, $8. But you can't buy a sandwich anywhere in this complex for a Bitcoin.
Crypto is a legitimate market used by millions of Americans, hundreds of thousands of those in my district. Unfortunately, today they have been referred to as criminals, as drug dealers, and I take offense to that. We should be giving investors opportunities to take part in cryptocurrencies, not putting up artificial barriers.
As you can see there is a bit of an argument from both sides. And I think the point has been made that, crypto's bad and does nefarious things, when in reality, that's mostly happening just as much with fiat. I don't want to get into that. Catch some of our many videos that we've shown a lot of that. I want to go into this next clip, which is talking about tokenized assets, because they're at stake. Listen in.
Innovations like the tokenization of assets have the potential to dramatically improve our financial infrastructure. And tokenization will allow new innovations in traditionally illiquid assets to become available to more people. However, for tokenization to take hold, it's important for regulated financial institutions to be custodians in order to identify the entitlement holder and to mitigate any single point of failure in the record of the ownership. This misguided action from the SEC should be struck down, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes for this resolution.
So this is good news. Again, this is realization that there is a major shift underway in the financial sector. And I think this is the thing that we need, lawmakers to understand, is this is actually setting us back in terms of innovation in the United States, whether it's the finance side, you look at fintech in general, but also just for the opportunity of investors, because that's the biggest part of it right now. Asia, Europe, all getting those kind of opportunities. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to go to this next clip. This is Maxine Waters. Is she giving up? Let's take a look.
The use of a CRA is dangerous and reckless.
Mr. Speaker, my friend says dangerous and reckless. Well, her party used the Congressional Review Act just like Republicans have used the Congressional Review Act process. So it's not reckless or dangerous, it's law, and we're trying to be a check and balance on the overreach of the administration.
Gentlelady from California is recognized.
This is my time.
Gentlelady reserved.
I love that. Interesting. She's like, I don't have an answer to that one. I don't have an answer to that one. So Maxine says, I think I'll pass on that. Let's go into an interesting point right now. And this is a different expectation than I think you might be considering during this vote. And this is actually a plot twist because Biden steps in. Listen in.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a statement of administrative policy from the White House. The President states that the resolution before us would, quote, disrupt the Securities and Exchange Commission's work to protect investors in crypto asset markets. The President of the United States of America will veto it.
The administration's approach to digital assets doesn't make a lot of sense. The president has an executive order asking for a regulated stablecoin, which we have passed out of the House Financial Services Committee with bipartisan votes. They've asked for a market regulation to give clarity of what is a digital asset and a means of exchange so American consumers can participate in this innovation. This should be a wide bipartisan vote and a statement that the House supports digital assets, digital innovation, and thoughtful policy making from our regulators in regulated finance.
All right, so there you have it. This is getting pretty heated, and I think the point that you have to consider with Biden and also the White House in general, is there something else brewing here? And that's, the first question I always ask. Is it something that they're going to end up starting to build this into a big, huge omnibus bill to get it passed as part of that, especially if he vetoes this coming down? So that in itself, and he's still trying to keep fangs in the SEC. Let's not forget about that. There's something afoot here, and I don't think it's good. So the good thing is that we do have a potential here of an end around, and I think that's what McHenry is working on. Playing this out, I think, going forward, especially just showing the support in the House for what's happening here. Let's go to that clip because this is where the bill gets passed.
The question is on passage of the joint resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The joint resolution is passed and without objection.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from North Carolina.
Ask for a recorded vote. Ask for the ayes and nays.
The gentleman requests the ayes and nays.
If you'll notice here, legislation that would overturn the SEC ruling prevailing regulated financial terms custodying Bitcoin. This is what we're all talking about. Start to see Republican 207, Democratic 21, these are on yays, and then 182 on the nay. So totals were 228 to 182. That's a pretty big win. That's a pretty big win overall. Now, is it as big as some of the other ones that we've seen out there in some of the things that kind of we've covered in the past? I don't know. To show you an example of what they were doing over in Europe, in the EU, MiCA, the EU crypto regulation officially passed. This was Parliament. Look at this ratio right here, 517 to 38. So overall, after everything was tallied up, it was 29 to 29. Remember, almost everything we get passed in DC right now has been coming through in these packaged omnibus bills. And I think that will be the most likely the case going forward, especially into blockchain and crypto. I want to go further into this because there's some more clips here that I think are interesting. This one right here is talking a little bit more on where the SEC's overreach is now extending into some of these publicly traded companies like Robinhood. Listen in.
You saw really strong volume growth with crypto, but over the weekend, SEC, or you guys at least disclosed, as well as notice from the SEC. Essentially,
we did, yes.
So you've got Gary Gensler on one side saying, just come on in and register. What is the disconnect? You're a stock brokerage firm. Why couldn't you just do the same thing you do with stocks, go in there, register everything, and call it a day?
The existing securities laws and framework don't account for crypto assets, and we tried to create what's called a special purpose broker-dealer for the purpose of transacting in crypto assets. We actually came in good faith to meet with the SEC. I think we met with them 16 times.
You met with them 16 times and made no progress?
16 times, that's right.
What is that about?
They told us they didn't want to keep meeting about it, and they didn't see a path toward it. So definitely the SEC has the ability to change the rules to allow for brokers to accommodate crypto assets, and they don't seem intent on doing that. And I didn't want to have to get into this situation, but we have to defend ourselves and advocate for our customers. It would not be acceptable to us to not have Americans have access to them.
So you can see it appears that Vlad is taking the stance of Brian Armstrong, and that is we're going to defend. At some point, the SEC has to realize that they can't pick a fight with some of the biggest companies in the industry, especially when you have millions and millions of customers, because this is only amplifying the narrative, and it's also amplifying the microscope on the SEC, but even more so on the Biden administration. So eventually, this is going to become a little bit of political baggage that I think is going to start to sway in to a shift in our entire theme politically going forward. In fact, so much that it's an interesting move here by former President Trump, talking about crypto. Listen in.
Thank you for the statement. Yeah, with the goggles on.
A lot of the smartest people in crypto are moving their businesses out of the U.S. because they're scared of the U.S.'s regulations.
Because of the hostility.
Correct.
Yeah, crypto is moving out of the U.S. because of hostility toward crypto.
Correct. So what are you going to do to stop it?
Well, we'll stop it because I don't want that. I don't want that. I want that. If we're going to embrace it, we have to let them be here. Biden doesn't even know what it is. If you ask Biden, sir, are you for or against crypto? What's that? What the? Get me off the stage. He's saying, get me off the stage. No, he has no idea. But look, Gensler is very much against it. And I say this, a lot of people are very much for it, probably a lot of the people in this group. And if you like crypto in any form, and it comes in a lot of different forms, if you're in favor of crypto, you better vote for Trump.
All right, guys, so there you have it. And if, of course, you want to vote for Trump, guess what? Now you can go in and actually make your donations via cryptocurrency. So this is a big, I won't say it's a flip-flop, because I think Trump has been very pro-dollar, and I think he still will be without a doubt. But it is one of those things that he has moved pretty far to the left. And I would have to say that it's got to be Vivek Ramaswamy that is in his ear, has made it a little bit more prevalent in maybe Trump understanding what this means in innovation, because I think that's really what it boils down. Trump is very pro-innovation because it's pro-business, pro-jobs, pro the biggest, and that is competition against the rest of the countries around the world. And I think that's the thing that probably gets Trump more charged up, is that he wants to beat China, he wants to beat the EU. He is interested in any kind of technology or advancement here in the U.S. that, of course, can do that. All right, so let me jump to this tweet right here by Ryan Selkis. Kind of interesting. Well, I didn't expect that. To share that. There was I was in Mar-a-Lago last night. But President Trump spoke very highly about crypto. This, of course, you saw, and then invited me on stage. That's, of course, the founder of Polygon, to say a few words. So that in itself, again, very, very bullish, I think, overall. Let me go to this last clip here, because this gets into the real villain as we start to show this. Take a look.
Sometimes when I'm down and all alone, all I ever need is you as they go. So as summer follows spring, oh, give me a reason to build my world on you. All I ever need is you.
We're talking about Apple taking heat a day after introducing new products. Today, the company is the talk of social media for all the wrong reasons.
Many find the ad to be in poor taste because it disrespects creators and their tools, and paints a picture of a brave new world where one soulless screen is our everything. To do that and say, look, we're crushing your guitar, your record player, your instruments, all this stuff. All you need is an iPad. Make do.
But for some artists and developers like Tatiana Vainovich,
it's actually insulting to artists.
All that damage is hard to watch.
Apple has this history of being against the soulless corporation, right? They were the the man, right? But this video almost makes them seem like they're coming full circle, and now they are the soulless technology company that's literally physically crushing all of these beautiful artistic tools and representation.
All right, so that's a big statement, and as you guys know, we've revealed on this show before, there is a connection to Apple and to Elizabeth Warren. Now, Elizabeth Warren, of course, the leader in charge of Crypto Army. Is there something else playing out? Because this still gets into a scenario when you look at digital assets, of creators owning their own rights, of creators being able to use their own marketplaces, and the opportunity of going into third-party marketplaces. That in itself, all of that plays into blockchain in the future, maybe of the creator community. And that, of course, does invade on Apple's space in a very big way. So this could be a connection So let's wrap it up. Of course, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, make sure and get in on that right now. It's also a great way to join our Diamond Circle, which we'll leave a link down below. That's a place where you get an email from us. We do additional content over there that we don't do here on YouTube. And it's also a great place to connect to the community, because I think that's the bigger scenario here, that really everyone needs to kind of bind together and try to get this moving forward, especially if you're in crypto and seeing what we're seeing in DC right now. If you're not following me on X, do that. It's @PaulBaron. Catch you next time right here on TechPath.